So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions.
Hey, welcome to the Building Billions podcast. Brett Swarts here. I'm excited about our next guest. He is a man on a mission to help us build wealth for sure. He wrote the 21 best cash flow niches. He is one of my longtime multiple podcast guests because he has so much wisdom and a heart for people and heart for helping everybody. Here at Building Billions podcast, we're here to help you scale from millions to billions and give more all of it away. And we're going to talk about a couple strategies here, as well as stewardship of the wealth today with my amazing guest, who is a husband, father, business owner, investor, podcaster, best-selling author. He's one of the leading voices in alternative wealth strategies and alternative asset investing. And again, he has a passion for helping people, business owners, achieve more freedom and sovereignty and leave a legacy for their families, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. MC Laubscher. MC, how we doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Great to see you, and congratulations on all of your success. I've been looking forward to our conversation, so always love catching up with you, buddy.
I'm grateful to have you on the show once again, and for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, maybe just a 90-second version of the story, and then we're going to dive in to the new book and how to get wealthy for sure.
Yeah, so I grew up in South Africa during a very interesting time in the country's history. I was like a young man when Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And then like 3 years later, ran in the first democratically held election, became the president of the country. So I lived through all that, which was, very, very interesting because you live in an environment where everything got flipped upside down, right? So there's no predictability, there's no certainty, nobody knows what's coming next, what to expect tomorrow, which was really a gift on my journey just as an entrepreneur, business owner, as an investor, because I saw what people did to provide clarity, predictability, and certainty in their life and how to win in that scenario. And I saw what people did that made them lose. Spoiler alert, people fighting over toilet paper in 2020 was kind of that strategy and back then in a different format. But so people getting emotional, irrational, that kind of stuff, right? And then I came to the United States in 2001. I played sports up in here until 2007, 2008. While I was doing that, I discovered Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, the book. I bought my first investment property. I threw some tenants in there. They collected rent. I collected the rent. They paid the rent. I paid the bills. There was money left over. Cash flow was the big light bulb moment, right? And then as I developed, I started to realize cash flow is great, but cash flow has to be part of a system where cash flow is optimized. Cash flow can predictably scale. And therefore, to do that, you need a banking system. And again, I just copied and pasted what they did in family offices, right? Look at Kiyosaki's model with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Boom, real estate was the way to go. Built my real estate business. Figure out I needed to become my own bank. Looked at the family office model, copy and pasted that. And I continue to grow and learn. But big focus these days also have been multi-generational wealth building and strategies, as I'm starting to see, hey, people that play a much bigger game and think like 3-4 generations down the line and like for 100 years or more ahead, they really seem to win now, even though they're thinking that big. An example of this, I don't like to make bold statements without giving you something to chew on. I had a conversation with Jim Rogers, legendary investor with Jim Rogers, the one time. And he said to me, because he threw out this 100-year concept. And I like to push back, so I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like give me an example. So he said, hey, MC, if you can only invest in 5 things, you could even go as high as 10. Let's say 5 for 100 years. What would they be? And I'm like, ooh, wow, that's interesting. And then he's like, well, what would they be? I said, I don't know what it would be for me, Mr. Rogers, but now I know why you are the commodity guy, because clearly that's what you came to, is like, hey, somebody's going to buy, beans and corn and, all this stuff now, and 100 years from now, they're going to buy the exact same thing. So he's got the Rogers Commodity Index. He's like Mr. Commodities, all these books. So that completely made sense to me. So I was like, okay, I got to start thinking like that, because even though he's got this time frame of thinking for 100 years ahead, he's winning now, and he's building massive things in the process. So yeah, I've had these days, just to answer your question, what do I do? I'm the founder of Producers Wealth. We help business owners and their families around the United States set up their own banking systems. Our mission is to elevate the financial well-being of business owners and their families. That's Producers Wealth. And then I've also been the host of the Cashflow Ninja podcast since 2016. Created that, and that show has been downloaded in 180 countries, 7-8 million times. And
MC is a legend, is what he's saying here. And if you don't know that, you got to check out the Cashflow Ninja podcast for sure, and the YouTube channel, all the different things. Okay, so let's dive right into the topic here. What's the number 1 secret from the new book, Get Wealthy for Sure?
Get wealthy for sure. So it all depends where you're starting in your journey, right? Some of us are.
But let's imagine they're successful. So this is a guy, built to billions. We've made it millions in revenue, right? So we're not trying to get to the millions. We're like we're trying to scale it to 10 million, and the 10 million to 100 million, 100 million to $1 billion. So let's make it more advanced today.
Fantastic. The 5 pillars to get you to those billions is the 5 pillars of a multi-generational strategy. It's the family office strategy. And a family office is it's a private wealth management firm that manages the wealth of really, really wealthy families, usually 100 million and up. You can have smaller multi-family offices at around 50 million, but the big really single family offices are 100 million and up. The Rockefellers, by the way, this is their model. And the reason why you have your own private wealth management firm when you have 100 million bucks is your CPA and your tax strategist kind of have to talk to your legal strategist and your lawyer, because if there's any miscommunication and there's an I not dotted and a T not crossed, that mistake is not a couple of bucks and saying, oops, we'll do it better the next time. That could be a mistake with a lot of zeros behind it. So if everybody in the same company talking to each other, just managing the wealth of a family. Inside of this, the framework, and I love frameworks, and I know you love framework, and your audience will love frameworks. There's 5 pieces of it. The first piece is the legacy assets. And this doesn't cost you a lot of money, by the way, just time. And you don't have to be a Rockefeller to do what they do. But so what's legacy assets? Legacy assets is the principles and values of the family. Who you are, what you stand for, what you stand against, which is sometimes even more important, what you stand for. And then kind of like the DNA, I call it, of the family. That kind of relates into the culture within the family, right? Leadership and culture, important and to grow any big business and scale billion-dollar companies. Same thing with the family. Leadership and culture is everything. So how do you maintain this? How do you set it? Well, you have to have your clear core principles and values, and they have to be communicated throughout the family. The second thing is why. Why do we want to do it? It's the statement of purpose, which is a very important document for the family. Declaration of Independence, kind of a pretty good statement of purpose for the United States. Hey, here's why we're kicking, the king and the British out, and here's why we're starting our own country. This is why we're going to do it better. And it's codified in that document. So why we're doing it and the vision is pretty important. And then the second key document here is the family constitution. Just like the United States has the why, the Declaration of Independence, and the how, the U.S. Constitution, your family should have the same thing. So how are you going to do it? what is in place. And then, of course, you have other legacy assets, which is heirlooms. Those revolve around great stories in the families too. And that really can relate and share the DNA of the family. So when you pass on heirlooms to family members, there's a story to it, and it stays in the family, obviously, but make it personal. Everybody's got something, You don't have to be a crazy guy from South Africa to have some Krugerrands as heirlooms for your children and grandchildren. There's something specific to you, your DNA, your story, where your family came from, to where they are at right now. That's kind of the glue right there, right? And the second piece kind of feeds into that, which is the family mastermind. There's a book, The 5 Men from Frankfurt, and it's based on the Rothschilds. And the Rockefellers basically copied a lot of the Rothschilds model from Europe. But the 5 Men from Frankfurt is the patriarch of the family sent his sons to the power centers of Europe to open up banking institutions in London, Paris. They were all over the place. You couldn't get away from the Rockefellers, right? And they're still there. And Rothschild, they're still there today. So the Rothschilds were all over Europe. But they used to get together once a year in a family mastermind to be in alignment on the core values and principles, the why, and the family constitution, and also share best practices that they had running their businesses and growing and scaling their businesses. This is the glue. We haven't even got to the financial stuff yet, which, if you get to the third piece, is legal, tax, and insurance structures. This is more tactical. This is where your lawyers and your CPAs and your insurance professionals, they're putting this all together to contractually protect the wealth of the family from creditors, predators, lawsuits, all the fun things, and then also have efficient wealth transfer from one generation to another. I'll share in a little bit how you can predictably set up a legacy waterfall, just like the Rockefellers, to have your heirs, your children's children, eventually have billions of dollars tax-free. Let me
hold on, pause, because this is so stinking good. Oh my goodness! By the way, if you guys gotta pick up the book, a couple books, but definitely pick up the book. Get Wealthy for Sure, right? Get Wealthy for Sure. Yep. I'm gonna pull out a little bit of things here because I want to make sure people are catching this and had a chance to hear it again, right? And you should rewind that and listen to it again because that's all gold. So, first of all, the stakes are so much higher. I think about Dr. Dre, right? I got more to lose than you, right? I don't know if you remember that part of the song when he goes, when you want to step into these shoes, you just realize I have more to lose. As you build more wealth, as you build your family, as you build your legacy, there's more to lose when you build all of that. So the stakes are higher, right? And so just realize that is the case, right? So starting a family office, especially if you're $100 million and above, you need to have the CPA, the tax strategist, the legal strategist, everybody making sure that there's nothing that's getting missed or miscommunicated, and lawyers, all of that connected. Legacy assets is number one, principles and values of the family, what we stand for, leadership and culture, clear core principles communicated. Number two, the why, kind of like the Constitution or the statement of purpose. And this is, what are you building this for, and why? It's like it's kind of like the American Constitution, right? What are we going to do? How are we going to do these things, right? With the family, the heirlooms, the great stories. I love that. My personal DNA background is on my dad's side, Native American. So awesome. we're certified Cherokee Indian, right? And learning about that heritage and that history and the original Americans, right? Which is kind of cool. I have some pride in that, right? And then another part of my family, most of my heritage is Greek, right? So and I have a lot of German, and then I'm mixed, right, from a lot of different things. But there's some neat things there. And then I just found out yesterday my wife's heritage. Check this out. We just found this out yesterday. So cool. Her aunt is doing this study of their background, and she's tracing it all the way back. And she traced their heritage all the way back to, guess who? George Washington. So watch this. George Washington's mom's sister, okay, that's the line that my wife is from. Okay. So it's not directly from George, but it was George's mom's sister, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, what a cool heirloom to be able to share that the first president of the United States, or my wife's side of the family, it was his aunt, right? That's pretty cool, right? It's pretty stinking cool.
Yep.
And then you have this family mastermind, right? Making sure you're meeting at least once a year. You're going over the core, commitments, the core, values, the things you stand against as much as what you stand for, best practices. Whew. And last one is legal, tax, and insurance structures. That's the part where you protect yourself from creditors and predators. I know I just repeated a lot of that, but I think that's so important that you catch those key things. MC, pass the mic back to you.
Yeah, and then those are 3, and then 4 and 5 is number 4 is the family bank.
Okay.
And that ties into the insurance structures. They have their own banking system, and all of these family offices have their own banking system where the members of the family have access to capital from the family bank for education, houses, like primary residence, investments, investment property, starting businesses, and so forth. So there's always capital available for the family. And that's what the role that the family bank plays. Think about it. Your need to finance stuff is better than almost any other need that you have. Really, like in your life, you're always going to have to figure out a way how to pay for things, right? And it's cash or it's a loan and so forth. The family bank facilitates that for the family members. And then the final piece of that too is asset management, right? And that just comes in. I already shared that philosophy of if you can only invest in, let's just say 10 things for the next 100 years, what would they be?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good filter to run things through.
Okay, let's do this right now. We're gonna go top 10. You ready, MC?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say real estate. I'm gonna say Bitcoin. I'm gonna say the top 500 companies on a rotating basis in America or the country or the world, right? That's what I would think. I think so. Let's call it number 3. I would say real estate debt. So not when I say real estate, I think you got to break that down into like hard assets versus, and I'd say multifamily, mobile home park, industrial, right, would be my 3 favorite. But then I'd also say real estate debt investing, right, stuff that's double-digit returns, lower LTVs. So I'm thinking about 4 right there. I would move to something along the lines within AI, right? With the world that's going with AI, where that's, so the top companies there. So tech or AI top companies. I would say this. So that's 5 that I can see that I would say for the next 100 years, I'd feel really solid about. What else might I add to that? I mean, I would say insurance, right? So getting some kind of, I don't know if you're saying that that's in a form of investing, right? Insurance. So that'd be 6. Help me. What else would you add to that or subtract to that?
Yeah, the basic stuff, like I would go really, really simple first. So the first thing is the assets of the family is actually the family members, and that's the philosophy too.
Okay.
So one of the first places to invest, obviously, is the family members, and then outside of it, now you're looking.
And by the way, let's break that down. So education, masterminds, development, leadership training, walk us through what you mean by that, make it practical.
And then also the advisors around them, right? That's, one of the takeaways here should be, hey, I don't have $100 million yet, and I don't have my own family office. Well, okay, you don't have to have that to have the lens of the people that have that, and how do they view advisors? It's not an expense; it's an investment. They have a team that they invest in, so that and that's the thing. You're going to have, let's just say, heirs, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Make sure that they're surrounded by the right people. So that should be an investment. So the family members, the people around them, and then, I mean, looking at very basic stuff. And I'm just riffing here, which I love. We do this all the time, you and me. But it's like, okay, let's riff. Real estate. Oh, absolutely, no brainer. Land, which is kind of part of real estate too. The other thing, food. So that's where Jim Rogers came in with the commodities, right? So think of all the commodities that you would need. Think of all the raw materials and stuff for, that actually runs the economy. Energy. And again, energy could change over a while. But if you really look at like the past 100 years, has it really? I mean, has it really? Everybody's like, well, it's getting disrupted. It's like, is it really all going to change into the next 100 years? And even if you're allocated properly and you say, okay, Maybe it does, but I'm still going to allocate, let's just say 25% to nuclear, 25 to coal, 25 to oil, and then 25 to green, all these. I think you're still going to be okay 100 years from now, right? And then, of course, wealth throughout the centuries have been kind of put into things like gold, which is, art and so forth. And then, I would just think of things that, and there's segments and niches in all of this, but things that are really necessary. Gold, to your point, hard currency. What's a hard currency right now that doesn't look like it's going away? Bitcoin is what you just mentioned, right? Now, that doesn't mean you run out and you put everything in there, but there's probably an allocation for that. And then artificial intelligence, I don't think that's going away in the next 100 years too. But I mean, this is a very good exercise to think about, right? Because you're looking at a completely different lens, because you're actually planting seeds to a tree which you're never going to sit underneath. And you're not going to be there 100 years. Well, maybe we are. You never know that too. But maybe we sit around after 100 years and go, you know what? Pretty good batting average there.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. By the way, to that point on the kids, so investing in your kids and investing in the advisors and such. So I have 5 kids. And so about, I don't know, a couple of years, it's been about a year to a year and a half, 2 years now, we've been doing jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah. And honestly, like bang for buck, like time and energy allocated, it is incredible. Like the kids go for an hour and a half, they go like 4 days a week. And I just feel like it's a little grit factory, right? And it just challenges them emotionally, physically, mentally, strategically, and it brings the family together. Like, it's so cool. I'm trying, encouraging my wife to join us too, so we can all do it together. And I'm doing it myself while they're doing it. So I'll call these for the 2-for-1s, right? Like, how do you get kids in your family in environments where they can be doing something together, where it's not just, one kid going off to a soccer match, because he's going to be the next Pele, right? Yep. Or one kid becoming the next Michael Jordan, right? And it's like, we had 5 kids. And so we're like, gosh, like we grew up and we were, it's kind of different in sports at that point. So not to say we don't go do that. Like my youngest son, he's fallen in love with football and basketball and jiu-jitsu as well, but looking for the ability to get them in front. And jiu-jitsu is not inexpensive either when you have 5 kids going, but it's absolutely an investment. And we're just like, this is so great for them.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. And this is part of the experiences, right? So, and that's the whole thing with that family mastermind thing is shared and joint experiences that strengthen bonds, and really like you enjoy each other's company. You're a well connected unit, and it just grows those bonds. And that's the most important thing, because in the end, think about it this way: if you don't have that, you can have all the other structures in place to facilitate smooth transfer of wealth. But you don't transfer the mindset, and you don't transfer the family bonds. And, if it's just a disconnected family or dysfunctional family, which unfortunately that's the average these days, right? That's why I'm so hard on averages, because I'm like, the average person is overweight, depressed, broke, and divorced. So I don't understand why we're solving for averages, right? So you definitely want to have that, because otherwise, you're just, if you're a dysfunctional family and nobody likes each other, and there's always going to be feuds, and there's always going to be disputes. That's why we have a family constitution to facilitate that. But if you're connected and you share experiences and you grow together, even a wider family, you're gonna keep on following the strategy. One thing that I also add back to the investment one, this idea just came up. Jim Rickards, he's wrote a ton of books. He's one of those guys that he almost could be like a Men in Black type of financial guy, right? Where he's ran financial war games at the CIA and the Pentagon and all that kind of stuff. And he has done consulting for families all over the world. And he shared in one of his newsletters once, he did some consulting for this family, the Colonna family, which is in Rome. And most people, this is kind of not to sidetrack, but it is insane how many of those families, nobody knows about them. They're still around, but like these are like Roman royalty family. They trace their family line straight back to the Roman Empire, right? So they were the ruling families then. They're still very prominent players. They're just under the radar. But anyway, he had a side conversation with the now patriarch of the family. And he was talking about conversations that he had with his father and his grandfather. And it was funny, Jim Rickards asked him, so what was some of the advice that they passed down? And he looked at him, he said, oh, from keeping the money and like multiplying it for over centuries. Think about the thinking there. He goes, his grandfather told him that he was told a third, right? A third into land and real estate, a third into gold, and a third into art, because that's what they did. And I mean, like, if you really think about it, I know the world has changed since, the Roman Empire, but you'd be in a pretty good spot, even with that asset allocation. It's simple as that. So it doesn't have to be complicated.
Absolutely love it. MC, this is great. And one of the thought I have on this is like, wealth, we've got to look at it as, you're right. It's emotional wealth. It's spiritual wealth. It's entrepreneurial wealth. It is the physical, actual, wealth itself, right?
Yep.
So all of these things, you're right. The mindset wealth, like these are things that we have to be intentional about. And so we recently did the family mission, vision, values for our family about a year ago. And then we have like the family meetings. We have the core values, right? They're all memorizing. And then we want to meet about once a week, and we go through it, right? And prayer requests and thoughts. And we spend about 30 minutes to an hour kind of doing this. And it just brings just a little bit of intentionality can pay huge dividends, right? And in a world where everything is vying for attention and everything is pulling in different directions, it's like diluted focus gets diluted results. But if you can focus like a laser on your family mission, vision, values, what's meaningful to you, creating these systems and these rhythms, right, of masterminding and then writing down the family constitution. I mean, we're talking about legacy and stewardship that you're building right now. It's like building legacy and stewardship grit, but you got to do the work. You got to get intentional. Tell us about Producers Wealth and how you help, and entrepreneurs, business owners, wealthy families, build these into their rhythms.
Yeah. So just another point, a lot of people will say, well, what do? You write the values down. What we did, and my kids are younger, we created a family crest, like just a family like badge, crest. And you can, if you're from a European family, you can go online and they all have, you pick a last name, they have them, you can get one of those. We decided to create our own one and then just put all the different values on there. So we each picked something to put on there, and that's part of our values. So an example would be, there's a honey badger on our family crest, one of the toughest animals out there. And then also it's the persistency, the toughness, never give up kind of thing. And now my kids, that they're very young, they can communicate that because they look at the honey badger. So it's not a bunch of words just scribbled. You can have fun with it. One thing before I talk about Producers Wealth, I did put a spoiler out there and I said, I'll share a quick strategy of how you can turn in, billions of dollars in contractual wealth for you and your family. Just throughout generations. So within the Rockefeller family office, they have the strategy called the waterfall. A lot of people talk about it as the Rockefeller method. And basically, here's a very simple example. But let's just say you have two parents that start this family bank and start this strategy. And let's just say they buy life insurance and they have $10 million each. When the parents pass away, there's $20 million to going to the kids. Let's just say you had 4 kids. That $20 million now buys more life insurance. And let's just say out of the kids, there's $20 million on each of the 4 children. And now the children pass away, there's $80 million now going to the grandchildren. And if each of them had 4 and you max them out, you can understand how this contractually can really move the needle. And I'm telling you, within a couple of generations, you're going to be very, very close to millions and millions and building towards billions, which I know is the theme here. Just by having proper legal tax and insurance structures. contractually, and then you'll have that bank. And that's what produces wealth. That's what we do. We serve business owners and their families all across the United States. We help them set up infinite banking. We do business planning, and then we do succession planning. These types of strategies, we help families to set them up so that they have contractual wealth built in to the GPS of their family for generations after generations. And they get to live their legacy now, setting up a family bank and creating their banking system, and then leave it for their children and their children's children's children.
MC Laubscher, everybody. I want to spell the last name because it is a little bit of a tongue twister. Laubscher. It's McLaubscher. And you can find more about MC by going to mclaubscher.com, mclaubscher.com.
One thing I'll also throw in a free copy of the book, Get Wealthy for Sure, audio and PDF. And if you want a physical copy, we'll just pay for shipping and handling and we'll ship it to you. But the web domain is getwealthyforsure.com. So getwealthyforsure.com. That's where you're going to find the books, some videos of these types of strategies, and then a link to book a call with us.
Beautiful. Let's go to the lightning round. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Besides Get Wealthy for Sure book, what's the number one book you've read the last year?
I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad every single year, Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. So I actually read that book every year. I've also taken a really deep dive into Alex Hormozi's book, The $100 Million Offers, The $100 Million Leads. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I pick up something every single year. I've been reading it for 25 years. And lately, I've really enjoyed all of Alex Hormozi's stuff about just his mindset and then tactical implementation of how to build companies and help and serve more people.
Amazing. Question number 2, best way you're using ChatGPT?
Ooh, that's a very good one. I have the paid version. I have files, and it's basically, I use it for brainstorming, problem solving. If I have a challenge, whether it be in my family, my personal, my business, investing, I'm like, how would you go about solving this? Give me 3 or 4 or 5 options. But it's because now you got like 4 or 5 things to work through and then brainstorm. So I use it to generate a lot of ideas. I use it to riff my own ideas and get feedback on. So it's a pretty good source.
Amazing. Question number 3, what are you most curious about right now?
I am a very, very curious person. So I'm curious about a lot of things. In my personal life, my health has been a big part, and actually I use AI for that too, for analysis, blood work, optimizing health. So I'm very, very curious, this concept of how to achieve, I'm 40, what am I now? I'm turning 47 next January. I got to think about that. How do I get the health and vitality and kind of the body of a 35 to a 40-year-old again, right?
There it is. That's great. I love it. Next question. Number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live
by? State the facts, speak the truth.
Excellent. Next question. How do you best stay ultra disciplined?
Habits build discipline, and just making promise to yourself and following through on that. That's how I stay disciplined.
Excellent. The very last question, and it's kind of the theme of the entire podcast and our heart here at Build It to Billions, which is to be able to give more, all of it away, and practice a stewardship mindset over ownership. So what does it mean to be a steward of the gifts and talents, the wealth you've built, MC, and how do you best keep a stewardship mindset over ownership?
I'm just here to manage it and to absolutely get as much out of it as possible, and then I'm going to transfer it. It's not mine. I have the privilege, and I'm honored to have these talents and to have management over resources, but I don't look at it as mine. So how would my kids and my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, how would they think I've done? That's the scorecard. What would they give me on how I'm doing right now?
Amazing. MC, I want to thank you for being on the show, sharing your gifts and talents and your wisdom with us about how to get wealthy for sure and how to be a better steward with the wealth, how to be curious and hungry and continue to change families. You're doing it, man. You're helping the business entrepreneur. You're helping individuals out there. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
GetWealthyForSure.com. That's GetWealthyForSure.com.
Awesome. Thanks, MC. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels. For those who are exiting a highly appreciated asset, business, Bitcoin, real estate, millions of dollars of tax gain or even tax, you want to build a capital gains tax exit plan. You can check out the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, as well by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And please rate, review, subscribe to our channels and share this with someone it could be of value to today. We so appreciate you out there listening or watching, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.